but we have to touch on the fact that we now have the World Series matchup.
Oh yeah,
Now, I mean,
big weekend in baseball.
yeah, Yankees got swept by the Astros, who are probably going to
Boy,
win the World Series yet again. But the Phillies are a really exciting underdog story, and people didn't expect them to be in the mix like this when they snuck in. And
from the
Brett,
wild card series to the World Series, it's pretty impressive.
I,
They
I love those stories, even if it is the Phillies and even if it is the city of Philadelphia.
and they came through honestly two pretty formidable opponents in the lead up to taking out um the Padres. In that, I mean, the Padres, to their credit, also got to the NLCS through the wild card by taking out
Yeah.
my Mets, but um
And then the Dodgers,
and
which
then
was the most
it was
impressive part.
it was too interesting. It was interesting. It was two kind of sort of David Goliath moments for both franchises in that they both came out of the wild card and defeated kind of two of the biggest favorites of the whole playoff bracket in the Padres beating the Dodgers in the semifinals, and then the Phillies beating the Braves in the semifinals to match up in the NLCS. And I got to give a lot of credit to the Phillies and their manager Rob Thompson. I mean,
Hmm.
they've been newly galvanized with him at the head as their skipper, and Reese Hoskins and Bryce Harper looked unbelievable. They were just every time they needed a homer, anytime they needed a hit or an RBI, they were there to supply that. And Harper's go ahead homer at Citizens Bank Park to put them over the top, sealing his NLCS MVP award.
Oh
It's probably the
man.
biggest hit of it, probably one of, if not the
The
biggest hit of
biggest
his
hit of his
career.
career, unless they end up, actually winning the World Series.
Then
But
there might be more to come. But honestly, I was saying this to my fiance recently that like it is impressive to everyone thought that Harper was going to get here with the Nationals, with the team that he was initially on, and to kind of have a little bit of controversy, or at least just a little bit of, consternation from one fan base in the division to go to a division rival, but then make good on it and make the World Series. It's really impressive, and it also just shows how fantastic Harper's been on two different teams. It's
yeah,
not easy to have that success going from one place to another usually, especially when you're kind of getting a little bit older, and like he's still in the prime of his career, but he's really shown that he is a real superstar in baseball,
is
and returned from injury better than honestly he was playing before, in my opinion.
and I mean, he's dogged the Mets for so long, and
Of course, yeah.
like the animosity the Mets fans feel for Bryce Harper is, I mean, you understand why, but he did just he has that massive contract and he earned it with a big hit like that.
Absolutely. With
And
initial fears from him in the beginning when he started it, he was not playing nearly as well as he was in Washington, and then he got hurt. So I think people were concerned that the Phillies made a bad investment, and then he came back, had two pretty MVP caliber years, and now they're in the World Series. So it's a pretty impressive stretch for him.
yeah, and look, I mean, the Astros, they have incredible pitching depth, and so that's going to be a formidable force. But at the same time, the Phillies have been hitting seemingly really well, from my kind of more cursory viewing. So their hitting could provide some headaches for the Astros. It's going to be an interesting major league Jesus, I was about to say major league playoffs, but it's going to be an interesting World Series. I don't know who I'm rooting for yet, because I like the Phillies story, but it's hard for me to root for them in like a Philadelphia rivalry that burns quite bright with New York fans.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I can't stand the Astros.
Yeah, the hard thing for me, what I grapple with, is I really do like a lot of the players on this Philly team. Like I've always liked Kyle Schwarber. I think Harper's just great for the game because he's one of the few kind of personalities that I think kind of break through on a national stage, because the MLB kind of like actively doesn't actually try to have players like be actual stars like the NBA does.
Hockey
Um,
has this problem
Oh
as
yeah, so
well.
as we were talking about last week, also love Reese Hoskins. Just love a big boy who can hit big taters, and and Sir Anthony Dominguez, one of their relievers, is just a fantastic pitcher, and did, even despite when there was rain when there was a little bit of a weather issue in Philly. I think he got a ball went past the catcher to get somebody from the Padres home, but he was able to rally back, and they were. It fortunately didn't matter enough to actually be a swing for the Padres to win. So I'm excited to be able to see a few of these guys keep playing, and unfortunately with the Astros, it's just not only are they just seemingly kind of getting to this Warriors level of inevitability.
Hmm.
In their prowess in the playoffs, they also just have had the Yankees number for years. I
Yeah.
mean, the
It's
Yankees,
almost Patriots level of inevitability
yeah,
because then they also have the cheating element,
absolutely, yeah,
which
totally.
like I'll be real. I mean, I don't think the Patriots cheated.
Well, with what you mean with Deflategate?
Well, I think Brady tried to cheat.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think that the head coach has no awareness of the level of inflation of the football season.
Whereas with the Astros, it seemed to be a little bit more organizational
Oh, they were
in terms
banging
of
on
the
cans.
coordination.
It was
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
coordinated, right?
And everyone knew seemingly, like the players, the coaches, the
But
front
even the
office, like
filming that the Patriots did of the Jets practice, the Jets did it first. People forget.
yes, right.
So
No,
it
and
was
they're-
more
yeah,
like I'm gonna
totally.
even the playing field. So I thought that was always very overblown. With the
And sign
Astros,
stealing or
no.
like filming, I don't know. It just seems more like kind of like Oppo research
Oh
than
my
anything. I'm not
God,
really as
yeah.
concerned about that as I am about like literally like devising a organization wide scheme to cheat, basically, which is
Right.
what the Astros did. And there are only a few holdovers now because so many guys have left that team since. But like Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve, who are kind of indignant and incapable of apologizing for their role in this, kind of sticks in my craw. But the only thing, as I've said before, that really would ever lead me to root for the Astros, besides Yordan Alvarez, who I just can't help but love. He's one of the best hitters in the game right now, and he's just been unstoppable in the playoffs. He's the reason why the Yankees lost last night, basically. Is Dusty Baker. I just like I'm
Yeah.
so desperate for
You've
him.
been on that
Yeah.
for since we started the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Or
I'm just
maybe I confuse our off-air conversations too.
Oh yeah, no. I think I said it a little bit with Greg when he was on.
Hmm.
I'm just so desperate for him to win one World Series because he's kind of like almost he's almost like an Andy Reid type or something, or a guy like that
Right.
who's just hung around for so long, or like kind of like Buck Showalter also for the Mets. It's just, I would
Uh-huh.
just love for one of those
Get
guys
their
to win a
due,
World
right,
Series.
right.
So that's really the only reason. But other than that, I'm kind of like, if the Phillies won, it would be fine.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly. I mean that it's kind. I've resigned myself to it as well, even though, as I've mentioned before, baseball is by far my most distant of the sports that I care about in the Big Four.